Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
Oh, this week we're going to get into that one scene from the 2000 film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon by Ang Lee. Let's get into it.
Let's dive on in. All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palter.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places that people what?
Find good media. That's right. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, of course, is a big one for us. So follow us there. And I recently started Letterboxd, so if you want to follow me there, you can.
All right, sounds good. So again, every other week we do these one scene analysis.
Yeah, Ang Lee.
Yeah, Ang Lee. And
one of our most famous episodes, or most watched episodes, is The Ice Storm, an Ang Lee movie.
Yep.
Obviously, you did Life of Pi, Brokeback Mountain.
The Hulk.
Hulk. I mean, you can't forget the Hulk.
Hulk.
And I don't think I saw Sense and Sensibility.
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen that. It's really good.
That's him, too.
Yeah.
That's one I haven't seen of his. But
this movie, for people who were too young and don't remember, this movie was such a big deal when it came out.
It was an experience in the theater.
Oh, my God. Definitely. And I saw it in the theater.
Same.
You did, too. Yeah. I mean,
opening weekend.
Yep. And what's interesting, martial arts movies about sort of this period of time in China started to become more ubiquitous within Western culture after this movie. So,
well, I think, for sure, like a little bit before it, because Jackie Chan got really popular. If you're in the era of Quentin Tarantino, you knew he loved all these kung fu movies growing up.
So like the Grindhouse era of stuff. Yeah,
a little bit, but like just kind of comparing, like, but Jackie Chan was like, Rumble in the Bronx is the movie I remember seeing that took off in America, and everyone started like really embracing this culture, because then you have stuff like House of Flying Daggers and Hero that come later after this. And stuff like that. So it's definitely a genre that, it was a moment in American society that accepted these foreign films a little more. Like, this is the first martial arts film that won an Oscar.
Well, and think about this too, because there is the martial arts aspect, which is obviously huge in this film.
Sure.
But the other thing that's really big here, and you mentioned House of Flying Daggers or Hero, and I'm thinking of something that had less of the martial arts aspect, but other movies like To Live, or let's say, what's the Red Lantern, Reyes Hide the Red Lantern, I believe, that like some of these other movies that are these period pieces, right? And that this movie melded those two ideas together so well that even watching the trailers, I remember this phenomenon, and I know that you asked me this when we were picking out what scene from this movie to do, because obviously this movie is a really big deal.
Yeah, we could have easily done, I mean, probably the more memorable scene would be the one where they're dancing
on the trees. On the treetops, right. And I agree, that is more memorable, and that comes later in the film. And I think the reason why I wanted to do this scene, which is the sort of cat burglar scene where our one character steals the emerald sword.
Yeah, the 400-year-old sword.
Yeah, and the reason why is because even though in the trailers there are definitely moments where you see some fighting, you see that there is some sword play, there are these little elements there, the movie is really sold at its top as being this periodic
fantastical
epic, right?
Thing,
this epic of this fantasy version of ancient China, right?
Yep.
And that's the way the movie's sold. And when the movie opens, it is these beautiful vistas. You see Chow Yun-fat, you see Michelle Yeoh.
He was a huge star.
Well, and if you didn't see the amazing cheese fest that is Hard Boiled, you didn't necessarily know that
the killer.
Or the killer. You didn't necessarily know that Chow Yun-fat was like an action star, right? You just see him, and again, he has this really interesting shaved back hairline to represent the time period. Yeah. Both him and Michelle Yeoh's characters are talking about.
She looks exactly the same.
It's true. She does.
Gorgeous.
She's incredible looking, and they're talking about, and it's funny to think this movie is in 2000, how both of them are past their prime, right? It's very much like this sort of lotus flower, beautiful fall settings of this town, this town in that sort of idyllic long ago China. And he is a swordsman who feels like he's past his prime. He's laying down his sword.
He's not even in this scene.
Well, I'm saying earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
And that they obviously had a thing together, but like he went a different direction. He married sort of like one of her friends, and then she passed away. And there's all this like baggage there, and that she also feels past her prime because now she sort of heads up this like security firm, the security department that is helping out this village that our movie takes place in.
Yeah, and then we get Ziya Zhang, who was in our Wong Kar-wai festival.
Yeah.
And she's amazing here. Never had any martial arts training, but since before this movie, which she's kind of the main martial arts expert.
But she was a dancer
in the film. Okay,
and so that's
and you could see that for sure. Like, I mean, I'm sure those two kind of can go hand in hand.
Sure, and that's what it's choreography, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So, but yeah, exactly. And so we meet the two of them, and I love this idea of like, oh, we're both kind of past our prime, and that the movie sets that up, right?
Well, and they have those two meet, Michelle Yeoh and her meet earlier in the movie, and she shows the sword. She pretends she doesn't know anything about it. She's kind of a princess. She has an arranged marriage, and that's coming up. And they talk about her, Michelle Yeoh's character, Yu Shi Lin, as like someone like your mother wouldn't approve of asking about her.
Right. Well, and we talked about this. We talked a little bit about sort of sexual politics a couple of weeks ago when Harry Met Sally, and sort of like movies that talk about sort of what a man's supposed to do, what a woman's supposed to do, these different kinds of dualities in that way. And this movie is chock full of that stuff.
Sure.
Which makes the next scene so interesting because it is her character. Sorry, say the actress's name again.
Ziyi Zhang.
Yeah, Ziyi Zhang. Spoiler alert for a 23-year-old movie, but she is the cat burglar here, although she is disguised.
We don't know that, though.
Yeah, I mean, she is in full, like, ninja garb, like, going in.
And the last thing we see is her going to bed.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, there is this acrobatic robbery of the Emerald Sword, and this guy, who seems like a pretty big, burly dude, is like immediately taken down, doesn't even know what's going on, and this burglar is like jumping off of walls, but it's all very much in shadow, like we don't really know what we're seeing. And then all of a sudden, this period piece sweeping epic movie that feels like it's going to be about romance and about like growing older and growing gracefully turns into the fucking Matrix. And rightfully so, because the action scenes are directed by the film's action choreography. Wu Ping Yang was also responsible for all the fighting sequences the year earlier in The Matrix.
Wow, that's not
right.
That makes a lot of sense.
And almost all of these stunts are done by these two women.
I was going to say the actors almost invariably perform their own stunts.
Yep.
Obviously, CGI came in later and took out the wires and stuff, but
Yep.
There's a fine line that you can do with that, because you do kind of throw that twist in there where like, and this is why I think this scene is probably more important than the one on the dancing on the thing, is because this is the first time we see this in the movie, right? This is kind of the reveal of this fantastical element.
Yeah, that our fighters do not need reality.
Yeah.
To hinge the way that they're going to interact with.
But there's
each
a
other.
fine line to where that could be super cheesy.
Yeah.
And you're not doing it right, to what they do here, where they really make it seem realistic. It's never too extreme.
Yeah.
They're not Superman flying around.
Yeah.
But they can't jump from rooftops. It looks like they're dancing.
Yeah, it's not Kung Fu Hustle.
No.
Yeah. I totally agree. It still feels, like you said, like
elegant.
they're dancing. It's so elegant. And let's talk for a second about the score in this drumming. It's drumming, and I think a single zither kind of doing that kind of pulling at a thread. Mm-hmm. And otherwise it's just those big kettle drums, right? And that's our backdrop for this entire sequence. There's a moment where she's up on top and she's throwing almost like they're stars, shingles, right? The stone shingles from the rooftop down onto people. And then just Michelle Yeoh, again, this character who's talking about like, oh, I'm entering that phase of my life where I need to slow down. is right behind this girl, jumping and kicking and fighting and like
Badass.
it's so badass. And like we take for granted now, we did the Grandmaster in our Long Car White Festival.
I definitely thought about that.
We take for granted this level of acrobatic fight sequences now. But at that time, I remember being in the theater and being like, I've never seen anything like this
There's
before.
this shot of them going down this long hallway, and there's two brick, walls that go as long as you could think. And that's really the moment where these kind of bad guys are, who are chasing her, she runs up the wall, and you're like, oh, wait, what just happened?
Is this like Spider-Man? How the hell do you do that?
That's kind of the first time. And, these guys are kind of the dumb bad guys, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, huh? It's kind of like one of those reveals.
Yeah.
But
and these are all the guys working for Michelle Yeoh. They're supposed to know what they're doing.
Do they work for her?
I think they're part of that
Okay.
security firm, I
Okay.
think,
Oh, okay.
that are protecting the sword.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Something I found out when I was doing research on this, and I love this, is the first draft of the screenplay said, "You will note in the script that none of the fight scenes are described. I will just inform you now that they will be the greatest fight scenes ever in the history of cinema, period."
Whoever the balls on that script writer, I
Right?
love that. And Ang Lee was like,
They're like,
Yep.
action here.
Yep.
But you're like,
Yeah.
"You just wait, it'll be awesome."
yeah, look, I can't describe it. It'll be the best thing you've ever seen.
And really, it is like the cherry on top to an already really excellent story about these two and this kind of lost love a little bit. But
with fantastic acting and everything else, and fantastic set dressing and everything else. And then on top of all of that, to say, no, a funny side note in doing my research is that, this, as we've already talked about, was this bellwether for Asian cinema of this standard to just flood the West. And apparently in China, it got a ton of criticism because the accents of both Michelle Yeoh and Chow Yun-fat.
they're speaking Mandarin, right?
Yeah, but that is not a natural language to either one of them. And so I believe for Michelle Yeoh, she was speaking with a Cantonese accent, and I can't remember. There was another issue with Chow Yun-fat's accent, and that's the thing. They weren't scared or worried about the kung fu. They were worried about their accents. And apparently in mainland China, it was like, this is the movie that's sweeping the Academy Awards.
Interesting.
Because, apparently to them, it's like watching, John Wayne play Genghis Khan, where it's just like, well, princess, right? Or they're like, it's corny as fuck. Like the accents are all wrong. But us dumb Americans, like it's all just Chinese, regardless of the accent. We're just reading subtitles and we're like, what a sweeping epic. So it's kind of ironic.
It's funny if you can disconnect that and not have that be a distraction.
Yeah. And if you don't know any of the dialects, then it isn't. But apparently that was one of the big
For sure.
takeaways is they're like, it's kind of corny because we
what
don't
does
really.
a Chinese person think of Fargo?
Well, I just think that it's
like-
like us watching Dracula and being like, Keanu Reeves' British accent is awful, right? In this otherwise amazing movie, it's probably like 3 different Keanu Reeves as the main leads in Crouching Tiger. That also reminds me, I never knew this. That title, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, directly relates to the idea of there being a room full of people and there's masters in the room who are keeping hidden their abilities. That's what that term refers to. And you go, oh, that's the whole movie.
Yep.
Right? Again, you think about this opening
People keep
scene.
surprising
Oh,
you.
we're in the twilight of our life. And it's like, no, you're a bunch of massive badasses. And then it's like, oh, I'm just the princess who's been waited on hand and foot. And it's like, no, you're like a crazy ninja. Like all these people are keeping their cards really close to their chest about what incredible warriors they actually are. And that this scene is the first moment where you go, oh, we're not just watching The Last Emperor. We're watching like a badass like movie with these amazing fights in it.
Well, it's like kind of Seven Samurai. You're watching this great drama, and then all these great action scenes are just intertwined with it, right?
Yeah.
And again, to your point, in 2000, this was like the use of wires here, and Matrix is an obvious comparison.
Yeah.
And it's definitely especially if it's the same guy. That I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like that's great little nugget there. This is kind of the beginning of this kind of stuff, and I don't think probably when they made this, they knew that the Matrix was going to go off like it did maybe.
Well, or even that, because obviously wire stunts had been used in kung fu movies before, obviously,
though, right?
but not in this way, to your point earlier of like stretching the bounds of reality. Like when we would see that in, say, like an old Bruce Lee film, it always felt corny. It was always kind of funny. It's like, it makes me think of something like, the story of Ricky-O, where it's like you could punch a literal hole through a guy's stomach.
For sure.
Right. And you're just
T2, like James Cameron, like that.
Yeah, it was always kind of corny, but to do it in a movie that otherwise you're like, no, this movie's serious as possible.
Yeah.
But this is how the people are able to move. It was such a brilliant idea, and it's created a whole new genre, I think.
And that genre isn't necessarily around much anymore, at least that we get exposed to that much in American cinema as much. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see the evolution of it, right?
Yeah.
And see how it's really changed things. But interesting scene, and the whole them fighting, like just like some of the action is just excellent, and there's something with the sword where it just kind of like twang, like it just does this extra like little like I can balance something on the end of it thing to it, like I don't know, the whole interaction. There's not a lot of dialogue. It's catch the thief is pretty much all the dialogue.
It's all these, well, and what it is it's the cinematic representation of what power is. Mm-hmm. They do these like pushes, right? Yep. Where she's pushing sort of like with her chi
also
in this way. Fighting. Yeah, and like the way that it's like they're both so powerful in this deeply intrinsic way, watching just their hands moving against each other, and that like
that's part of this fantastical part, right? And element.
And
it's just a little bit though. It's not like over the top.
Again, it's not kung fu hustle. They don't need to make it cartoony. It just needs to feel, again, like Grandmaster. It needs to feel like powerful and realistic within this world that's built. And I just, watching it again, I just was like, oh my God, do I have time to watch the whole movie again? Because it's just so
it was a spectacle in the theater though.
Oh my God.
And I really hadn't watched this in so long. I do need to go back and finish it though, because I definitely got tempted.
Yeah.
Really fun scene to revisit.
Yes.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of those fun places. And we will see you next week. We're going to end out our stand-up film festival with Lenny, the Bob Fosse film. So join us to end that out, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, you guys.
Thanks.
Welcome to Deep Dive Film School.
Oh, this week we're going to get to that one scene from the 2000 film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Why would that be the joke? It would be like if the scene we were doing had a penis in it. It would make sense. It's like the most bottom of the barrel joke. Right, even if the word dragon like rhymed with penis, it would be clever. But it's just like crouching tiger, hidden. Well,
isn't that the
hidden
porn?
Butthole.
Isn't that the porn version of this movie?
Hidden penis.
Crouching tiger, hidden penis. Do we keep any of this, or we just do it?
No. Where would we keep it?
I mean, we could
just for a best of reel of us like riffing,
cutting room floor shit.
Oh, fucking God. Okay. Penis.
I just can't.
Nothing even clever.
Well, apparently there is, because you're laughing.
Crouching butthole. Oh my God.
Hidden penis.
Hidden penis.
Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, crouching butthole. Hidden penis.
Well, it's like
I think that's called the crying game.